Okay, so welcome. We're here at Hypercomics at the Pump House Gallery. I'm delighted to introduce Dave McKean, who's going to give you a bit of background about this project, The Rut, which is an original work made specifically for this location as part of the Hypercomics show. And also, I know Dave's going to be very interested to hear your questions, but also your reactions, your interpretations of this work. So, over to Dave.
I think that should be there, actually.
you've just changed the exhibition. Yes, it's endlessly adaptable.
Hi, I don't know what I'm doing here. So I'm relying on you guys really to talk to me. I can do a quick summary of how this came about. That's probably a good place to start.
Yes.
So I love comics. I'm a bit of an evangelist about comics. So any opportunity to do comics in an unusual context, I will grab. And Paul suggested doing this exhibition. I like being in something with limitations, and so given this room, and I exited this room because I like the view. I had a feeling the view would come into it somehow. I don't quite know how, but I had a feeling something would happen with what's going on inside. Maybe it happened outside, I don't know, but I didn't know at that point what it was going to be. So it's nice to have a little confined space. This was not here. This arrived halfway through the planning stage.
As in this giant extra wall that goes right the way up.
So, but it gave me a corridor, which was a nice plus. And so, Park, we're in Park. That was obviously going to be part of it. I associate Park with something that happened to me in my youth. And I still think about that thing that happened to me. And so that was the seed of this story. Because it's so long ago, I can't actually remember whether I've remembered it correctly. So that seemed to suggest a fragmented story in some way. I don't have much faith in interactive storytelling as a medium. I like actual interactivity. This is actual interactivity. You know, what's going on now? You could shoot me or something like that. Would be truly interactive because I don't know what you're going to do. And I like storytelling. I like one of you telling me something in a line, or I could tell you something and then afterwards you talk about it. I like the two things. When you come together, when you're trying to tell a story where you have multiple endings or you can choose where you go, I kind of think that's a bit of a cop-out. I like to hear a good storyteller tell me their story. But this is as close as I think I could come to actual interactivity in some way, in as much as it's a fragmented story. There is a bit of truth in here. There is an actual story. I know what it is, but it's not. That's not the interesting thing, really. The interesting thing is just getting up to that point there in the story, and then you make of it what you like. Really, you can go where you want to go. Maybe it's nonsense. Maybe it's interesting nonsense. Maybe it's irritating nonsense. Maybe it actually adds up with something. I don't know. Used to be a deer park here. Dumb luck. I had no idea about that. I installed the whole show before Paul said, you know, this used to be a deer park.
I didn't know that myself, but there's actually a wonderful old creaky sign next to the cafe pointing to the deer enclosure, which sadly, you know, it's not there anymore, but the sign's still there, which is rather nice.
This was apparently the epicentre of the deer. I'm making that up. But that was a nice surprise.
It just, yeah.
But the deer imagery just came from just drawing, and the more I was drawing, these images started to arrive. I made the masks first, and I had all these antlers, and that seemed to be appropriate, and I like the fact that you look through it like that, see that, but then we can all watch you look through it and you become the character and all sorts of things. And then the idea that the title, The Rut, obviously comes from being stuck in a rut and and young bucks fighting. So there we go, that's kind of it really. Any questions? Silence.
Well, I'm just going to ask you about the window ideas as well, what you've done with the windows and what the thinking was behind that. Because there are three of those, aren't there?
There are three windows.
Everything's in threes, essentially,
so
isn't it?
Everything's in threes. It sort of splits into the identities of the three characters, the victim, the attacker, and the witness. And I've always liked the idea of, you know when you go into a tall building, they have the skyline, and they write in the title of the building, you match it up if you possibly can, and it tells you what. I always wanted it to be wrong, you know, for King Kong to be on one of them, or for the buildings to be completely upside down. And because it seemed to be an interesting sort of tacit agreement, you just expect to be told the truth in that sort of situation. So I wanted to play around with that.
And what was the process and the thinking behind these?
Well, that was the thinking. The process was just taking a picture and then drawing my little characters in and turning the background to line. And you can, if you put your feet where the little feet are and your eye where the eye is on the red arrows, they just about line up. I mean, it's a bit of a push, but they just about line up.
You have to get your eyes in the right position. Yeah.
And all that happens is your eyes can't focus on both. So if you focus on the image, then the background just sort of colours it in,
yeah.
in greens and whatever. But if you take a picture, usually the camera can focus on both. So when you get home, you realise it's all sharp. I'm very happy that some people have come in and out without ever actually seeing what's going on behind there, and then wondering what their friends are talking about.
We should just have a little look at that. Yes, there we go.
Always wanted to try and do something like this. This is kind of, it just about works, but I can do better. I can get it to line up really, really right. But playing around with slide projectors and things wobbling and ridiculously stretched type, I wouldn't recommend doing again. I'll find another way of doing it.
And of course, it's an open suitcase, which suggests sort of like an unpacked life or something like that. And doesn't it have a sticker on the back saying something like one owner pack or something?
Yes.
Owner packed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which suggests that the owner himself was being packed inside somehow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah. Well, I just thought, yes.
What happened to you? Were you attacked, or did you know it?
Oh, I don't want to tell you.
Okay.
Which one were you? Which were you, a
Well,
victim, perpetrator, or witness?
Exactly.
But
I
that's
haven't been in prison, let me just tell you.
Okay.
No one caught you.
Thanks. No, I don't know. The truth isn't there.
I have a quick question. The mezzanine is quite a unique challenge in this kind of a space, and there's already a lot of, I suppose, problems already. There's an architectural space to exhibit in. Did you choose to offset that kind of perspective shift with the larger pictures, or was that just something that you thought would go into the space and then the perspective kind of worked?
Well, I think on coming into the room, I wanted a sort of environment. I couldn't really, take control of lighting and all that kind of stuff because of the floor above and everything. And so, and I knew that the images I was going to do, if I was going to get it done, and my usual way of drawing, they're all going to be quite sort of human scale, quite small. But I wanted something to have a bit of as if you're inside my head or the head of the character. And so these images came up. I had done one already. I had done that one already. And so these two sort of grew out of that. But this idea of fragmentation and the damage and getting inside the head just seemed to be right. And I think in the end, I'm not really bothered whether you look at them. It's just a feeling. It feels a little more oppressive than the room without them. It feels quite an airy room without them. With them, it feels a bit like that.
It's also iron pyritis. Is it fool's gold?
It is.
Very appropriate.
It's more an observation than a question. When I was looking around, it seemed to me it's quite Pinterest. You've got all this stuff where the characters are very sort of terse. They're not really saying very much, and you're trying to second guess what they're saying.
Yes.
And the kind of the sort of savage beneath the civilised, like the park being the wild place. Was that, I don't know, was that an influence when you were thinking it up?
I think it probably was, because I certainly didn't want to give too much away. But I also love the rhythms of children's books. I do a lot of children's books. But even when I'm doing adult stories, I tend to have inherited those rhythms, which are quite to the point and terse and simple and rhythmic and repetitive. When they have a point to make, they usually make it 3 times and get out. So I do like that terse rhythm. Also for these, I did some research. That's moved. I'll put that back. I did some research and found a writer. Well, I actually nicked a couple of lines from him, to be honest, or pretty close, who was a prisoner and was ended up doing some columns in The Guardian about life in prison and then life out of prison. And I just found his way of describing things, and the language obviously that he thought was perfectly usual, but it was very much prison language. Extraordinary.